Hi, welcome to the DRH show where I have wide-ranging conversations with fascinating people. We talk about all things psychology, mental health, and wellness. Today, I'm joined by an author and family psychotherapist from Detroit, Michigan, Chris Laird. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me this morning. Thank you very much.
Well, it's great to have you back again, Chris. I've interviewed you a year ago or so, but for the benefit of those who haven't come across your work, could you please refresh our memory about your background, your trajectory in life, and how you ended up doing what you're doing?
Well, to make a long story short, it's basically, I started, as an author, as a child, just writing, short movie scripts and, things like that. And they never came to fruition until I got into my teenage years, until I actually started writing books. And later on in life, I was able to get those books published. So, and mostly they're just science fiction. So I'm a science fiction author, and it's been a lot of fun. So I've been writing my entire life, and writing movie scripts and plays my entire life as well. And I've had gaps in my life where I stopped and stopped writing and or whatever, but then I got started again. So that's been pretty much the journey. As far as mental health, I actually started when I started college. I was actually going for journalism. So journalism was actually my first major. And then as I got, closer to finishing my, general requirements, I started looking at social work. So, okay, because I just always had a passion for people as well. So that passion and that desire was always there to help people, along with writing. So I had these two careers that I kind of wanted to go in, but I had to make a decision, which one. But I ended up actually majoring in psychology during the mid 90s. So mental health has actually been my path, since then. But I've also been writing as well. But mental health is the thing that's been putting food on the table for me for these past 10 or 20 years. So that's pretty much my background as far as that.
Now, for those who want to explore more about your background, because I did an in-depth interview with you when the last time we had a chat. So what I'll do is I'll pop in the link on the video description also for anyone who kind of wants to trace back your degree, your qualifications, and also like what you've said, how you started. They could watch that interview. But like what you've said, Chris, the main food on the table, so to speak, is your work within mental health. And I understand that you've also been doing a number of important works when it comes to mental health. But I suppose before we come, before we dig deeper into the discussions about mental health, I just want to hear your thoughts. Do you feel now that we've made significant progress when it comes to mental health? But do you think, from your perspective as a psychotherapist, do you feel it's more acceptable for men now to talk about their mental health?
You know what, Dennis? I'm so happy you brought this subject, and it is. It is. I would say maybe 20, 30 years ago, men would usually try to, hide their mental illness, especially depression, because they would be perceived as weak, not strong enough. You had to man up, push it down inside. Don't let nobody know what you're going through. Even if you're hurting inside, you just have to just keep pushing forward and just kind of hide it. Well, now that paradigm shift is kind of changing, and I'm glad it is, because everybody hurts. Men, women, everybody hurts. And for men, we've always had this thing of just put on a strong front, even though you may be hurting inside. You just have to put up a strong front. And a lot of men just always feel like they have to, put that up, and they don't want to be perceived as weak or less than, or not being able to take up to the task. So they kind of just fake it and hide it, but really inside, they're hurting, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And their mental health is not being addressed, and it goes undiagnosed, and no one's really being helped. But that's all changing now, especially with even some athletes coming out saying, I know Kevin Love with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the United States, he went public and said, "Hey, I suffer from panic attacks." So if someone else comes out and says, "Hey, I'm suffering through something," that takes a lot of courage to do, and to do it on a public forum may give other people courage to come out and say, "Hey, you know what? I suffer from panic attacks. I suffer from depression." So making that first step and being open will also, I think, allow other people to be open as well and not feel so uncomfortable and scared because someone made that first step.
Absolutely. As what you've said, Chris, we've made significant progress when it comes to, addressing the stigma that surrounds men's mental health. But do you have any theories other than, this notion that as a man you have to man up? Let's say, for instance, do you think there's enough number of male psychotherapists, or do you think that we're not actually offering a tailored intervention when it comes to addressing men's mental health? What's your take on that as a psychotherapist, and obviously as a man?
Well, I think that's a great point. I'm really glad you brought that up. In the field that I work in, it's mostly a field of a lot of women that are social workers and therapists. There's not a lot of men, doing what I do, so we're greatly outnumbered. But the surprising thing is, and we do need more men in this field, is that when I do talk to guys that are going through, certain things in their life, they're actually relieved that that they're talking to a man, because sometimes they may feel uncomfortable, talking, with a woman, or there may be cases where they feel like they're just going through some issues that men understand. So there have been some instances where I talked to men and they said, "Oh, I'm so glad that they brought me you, because you can understand, you probably understand what I'm going through, and I feel more comfortable talking with you." So there are instances where I experienced myself where they're really relieved that they have a male, caseworker, manager, therapist, on hand to kind of help them navigate through what they're going through, because there's that comfort level as well, and there's that familiarity, with that bond that guys have. So I think the need for men in this field, as far as therapy, social work, caseworkers and things of that nature, I think is really, really needed.
Absolutely. And as what you've said, Chris, it's really important that you have that connection, that bond with your psychotherapist. And obviously, if you've walked the same path as they are as a man, then it's a lot easier for them to, to help them navigate what they're going through. And just as an aside, because we were talking about men being outnumbered in the profession of psychotherapy and the helping profession. I've just heard that in Britain, the University of Sunderland is offering male psychology, a module in male psychology, and the last time that I've checked, this is the first in the world. So I think that's a right step in the right direction if we're offering, a sort of a module, or anything just to encourage men to take up a course in psychotherapy or a course in mental health. That would hopefully increase the male contingent in the profession. But I just want to hear your thoughts, Chris. Let's talk more about this issue about men's mental health. But based from your experience as a psychotherapist, what are some of the main issues men face?
Well, there's a myriad of issues, that men go through. One of the main things is depression, also panic attacks too. I've uncovered in quite a few years, a lot of men suffer from panic attacks, and I'm also relieved that they have the courage enough to come to me and talk about these things, because they feel so much pressure to hide it from everybody else. There's so much pressure to hide it from their significant others and their family, because they're so afraid they'll be ostracized, by the ones that they love. And like I was saying earlier, they would be perceived as being weak or not strong enough. And we really have to get rid of that label. We have to really get rid of that stigma of labeling people as weak and not being fit up to the task. Mental health is a serious issue. Depression is a mental illness, and as well as panic attacks. So these are real things that happen, and these are not just these these things that just happen, but these are actual medical conditions, and they need to be addressed. So, like I was saying, just a lot of men, I think, just suffer from just kind of just being perceived as less than, so they hide a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of men go through that, and instead of talking about it, they just continue to push on and push forward and just put on this mask as if everything is just okay, but they're just really suffering inside. And that's something that has to stop. And I think once we come to that point where we're addressing this and being more open about men's mental health and not being afraid, I think there will be a lot more room for improvement, openness, courage, encouragement, and just going on a much more better, smoother path of taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. But I just want to touch upon one point that you mentioned there, Chris, because you mentioned that a lot of men hide their depression. So it would make sense that if they're hiding their depression, a lot of men would also have undiagnosed depression. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that is absolutely correct. And undiagnosed depression just can come in just so many forms. And a lot of men could, express anger, irritability, risky behavior is more of a kind of like acting out. So there's, signs of, depression and other mental illness just based on those characteristics. And sometimes men don't know what to look for. They don't know what, depression looks like. So, it's really hard to kind of sometimes for them to identify what depression is or what they're feeling. But there is this sense of they know something's not right. They know something is not right within them, but it's really hard to kind of pinpoint what that is. So I think a lot of men just struggle, just kind of realizing, okay, we're in a bad place, but what's the best way to go about it? What are the next steps for myself to kind of find out what's going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? And it's more so just kind of figuring out, what is that next step for myself?
Absolutely. Now, Chris, if we talk about depression, we can't avoid talking about one of the consequences of depression, which is suicide. So, from your line of work, could you tell us more about male suicide and depression?
Well, as far as suicide is concerned, men are more likely to complete suicide because they're more likely to do more dangerous things. For example, using a gun, or I've heard many stories where men would just drive into oncoming traffic. So I get a lot of reports of men, doing that, and then sometimes they just change their minds because there's something I don't want to do. But this is what goes on in their minds a lot. And men are not really opposed to talking about, suicide or giving little hints or, things like that. Again, it's going to, keeping things to yourself and, being afraid of admitting, hey, I'm thinking about, suicide here. And this is a really serious thing. So, again, it's identifying, what those symptoms are, in us, and just being open. Just being open with somebody that you trust, and maybe a family member, or maybe a licensed therapist. But just being open about these issues, and just not being afraid of saying, "Hey, I think I'm depressed. I think I'm going through something here. Can you help me?" So making that first step of being open, I think, is the first path of getting treatment.
Yes, and I just want to follow up with what the tips that you said there. For anyone who's dealing with a range of mental health issues, especially if you're thinking about suicide, just speak to a mental health professional or speak to a charity. Suicide is definitely not the right thing to do when you're struggling with a mental health issue, just like what psychotherapist Chris Laird said. Now, earlier we talked about how we have made progress when it comes to mental health. But in particular, when it comes to male depression, would you say that as a society we have also made significant progress, or there's also a number of steps that we still have, we still need to take?
Well, I actually think in the past few years we have, made significant progress in addressing, men's mental health and just mental health overall. I mean, even in the workplace, mental health is, a lot of people get burned out at their jobs. They experience tremendous amounts of stress. And years ago, this was, you know, we just have to go through it. We have to push through. But now we're just experiencing, more burnout, more stress. People are just unhappy at their job. So mental health is now being addressed a lot more in society. And, this could be something that's, really hindering, not just men, but just people's progress overall. So this is something that really needs to be looked into seriously. And we have to think about this as, okay, we go to the doctors every year, for a health checkup, check up on how we're doing physically. But we also need that mental health checkup, regularly for ourselves. We really need that mental health checkup because we all experience so many things in our lives, our jobs, our family, our relationships, our health. There's just so many factors. Uh, Not everything's perfect in our lives, and we have to make sure that our mental health is being taken care of. And like I said, in the past few years, we have experienced mental health being addressed at the workplace. In Hollywood, people are talking about it more, and I think that's where the attention to it begins. Because when a celebrity comes out and says, "I'm depressed," I'm going through something, people will pay attention. When sports celebrities like, Kevin Love, and there's a few other sports celebrities I can't think of at the top of my head right now, but they've come out and said, "Hey, I have panic attacks. I'm depressed. I don't know what's going on with me." So once people start being open about it, and especially on like a large social forum, it encourages that openness, and it encourages others to say, "Hey, you know what? He said it. Maybe it's okay." So again, it's really people just stepping up and saying something. I think is really going to pave the way for others to do as well.
Absolutely. Well, when celebrities and important figures begin to talk about mental health and their own lived experience of mental health, it begins to normalize conversation. And as what you've said, Chris, it encourages people to seek professional help and to talk more about it. And it becomes, a positive cycle for everyone. Now, earlier, well, before we talk about your thoughts and insights about men's mental health and in particular about depression, Chris, you've alluded to the fact that you're also an author and you've written a number of books. So, can you share to us your latest work?
Yeah, well, my latest work is something I'm really proud of. One of my books, The True Meaning of Christmas from the Perspective of an Alien, has been adapted into a stage play. And the play will be December 11th, and it's going to be online. So everybody all over the world can, watch this play. So it's available for everybody. But I was just so happy to actually, do this play because, like I said, Dennis, I've been writing, since I was a child, and I would write movie scripts as a kid, but they were never, translate into like a stage play or actual movie. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually going to see, what I created in a book now on stage, and now my characters are actually real life actors playing out these parts, and it is something truly unbelievable to see, like once your dreams come to fruition, and now it's not so much of a dream, but now it's a reality, and it's actually happening in front of you. And the crazy thing is, Dennis, like once you're working trying to get all this together and doing all the technical stuff, you don't see the big picture until like maybe a few months later you're looking and say, "Oh wow, I actually did this." And as we're getting closer to the play, I'm kind of realizing in my head, like, wow, this is actually happening. Like I've actually gone through with this. There's no turning back. It's actually going to happen. And I'm almost in the state of disbelief right now because the stage play is actually going to happen. So I'm just really ecstatic about this.
I could imagine. And let me congratulate you, Chris. I know it's really a significant, aspect of your work, not just as an author, but also as a mental health advocate, because I could sense that there's an element of mental health aspect involved in your play. Is that right? Tell us about more, just give us a sneak preview of what the story is about. Is there an element of mental health story here, or is it more like biographical?
Well, Des, I'm glad you asked that. There is an aspect of mental health in the play, and I think people can learn a lot from it. But the play is, like I said, it's called The True Meaning of Christmas from the Perspective of an Alien. And basically, the story is about an alien from outer space. She's like 300 million light years away. She has a human boyfriend, and she comes down to Earth in 1941, and she has some news to tell him. But she comes around during Christmas time. So, she's kind of wondering, what's the deal with the Christmas trees, the decorations, the music. She wants to understand what Christmas is. So she's asking her human boyfriend, what's a Santa Claus, and what's how does Jesus and Santa Claus correlate? What's the correlation? Why do people give each other gifts? And as he's answering these questions, he's kind of finding out, well, I really don't know what Christmas is all about. I don't know where Santa Claus comes from. I don't know the correlation between Santa Claus and Jesus. I don't know why we give each other presents. I don't know what the holiday is about. You just kind of fall in line with everybody else. Oh, just buy presents. Oh, just do this. So the play, it's a comedy actually. So Ixana is the character from space, and Monty Hershoff is her human boyfriend. So they actually try to find out what Christmas is all about through this comedic sequence of events. And they kind of find out what Christmas means for the both of them. And at the same time, Ixana has this special news to tell Monty, which kind of has to do with Christmas a little bit. I don't want to give it away, but it's a very special play. Not only is it funny, but it's also heartwarming as well. There's some touching moments, and it's a part musical too. So there'll also be singing in it as well. And I know you mentioned the mental health part about it. I think the interesting thing, Dennis, about Ixana is she's gone through a lot of trauma in her life. So, being a Mykean, that's her race. Her people were tortured and ambushed, a long time ago. And so she's gone through child abuse, rape. She's been through poverty. So she's been through so much terrible things that's happened to her. So now, her, her mental health is, not up to par. So now we're trying to see Ixana trying to overcome all these things. And she's in a relationship with somebody. So, and this is the first relationship she's been in. And it's not even her own kind, it's actually a human. So she's really trying to learn to have a fruitful relationship, to try to find ways to compromise, because she's not a compromising person. It's her way or it's no way. So, and in a relationship, there has to be some type of negotiation and some type of camaraderie, but it's her way or no way. And she's realizing it can't be like that. And she's basing this off of her past experiences of, being hurt before. And she also seen her parents murdered. So just imagine all the post-traumatic stress disorder and all the things, the mental illnesses that she's going through. Now she's trying to change herself and trying to live a better life, but she's finding that difficult because all the past hurts that she hasn't rectified yet. So just seeing her journey and her character arc as she's improving, as she's kind of moving forward with her character and learning more about herself, is I think it's a great thing to see. And it's also letting people know that this whole thing is a journey. So kind of finding yourself and finding out who you are, and what you want to do with yourself, and feeling this sense of peace is this journey. It's not this, okay, we're just going to talk to somebody tomorrow, take some medications, and everything's fine. But this whole thing is a process, it's a journey. And seeing her go through that, I think it's a very, very cool experience.
Chris, this sounds like a very dynamic and very multi-layered story that you've come up with for the play. So I was just intrigued. What inspired you to do this play, to write this story?
Well, you know what, Dennis? One thing I always wanted to do, like a Christmas themed play or a movie or a book. Christmas is the most, like the song says, the most wonderful time of the year, because everyone's usually happy, upbeat, and they're a little extra nice as opposed to maybe the other months during the year. There's a lot more, happiness, right around this time. So I just always enjoyed the holiday, and what better way to manifest that into a play, and it's my creation, it's something I created, and I'm just so happy that I'm doing this, and all this started to just unravel and unfold, and it is just a great experience. I mean, just to have one of your books to actually be a play, like your characters are coming to life now, and it's something truly remarkable, and it's something like, it's a lot of hard work, but at the same time, I want to say it's very easy, because this is my story, so nobody knows my characters better than myself. I don't have to read up on it, I don't have to look up something, I don't have to do research. Like, these are people I created. So I mean, it just comes just easy and free flowing, just right out of my head. And I think that's the best part, because I'm actually directing the play as well. So when, my actors are on stage and they're, playing their parts, I can just actually go on stage and say, okay, this is not how Exana portrays herself. Oh, this is not how Monty does this. He's more like this, and she's more like this. So if you kind of just do this, it kind of brings their characters, in full circle. So just seeing my dreams like come to an actual physical play. And I just hope we can actually do like a full motion picture movie one day too. So that's something I also have in the works for my books.
Absolutely. I could really imagine the sense of accomplishment, when your characters come into play, because, just writing a book, that's already a tall order. Not everyone can write a book. So the fact that, you've not just written a book, but it also has come to be a play, that's like a double whammy. So I really congratulate you, Chris, for, turning it into a play. But for anyone who has already, kind of become interested, you've piqued their interest to watching the play. I heard that you mentioned earlier that this is going to be online, so it becomes even more accessible for anyone. So where can they buy their ticket, and how much will it cost?
Yeah, so people can go to my website. It's called unalienchristmas.com. And once you go on the website, you'll see a tab where you'll say you can purchase and buy tickets, and you just basically just follow the prompts. And we'll be showing the play live on a website called AirMeet. So we'll be showing the play on AirMeet. It'll be live streamed through there. Tickets are $35, and the play will be December 11th. So once again, just go to my website, unalienchristmas.com. And like I said, you'll see the tab. It'll say purchase tickets, and you just follow the prompts, and it'll take you to the AirMeet, website. And also on the website, you can, read about the play, the synopsis. You can read about the characters in the play and the actors they're playing in it. And there's so much other stuff on the website you can check out about the play. So, and alienchristmas.com is where you want to go to purchase tickets.
Okay. I'll put that link on the description note. So for anyone who wants to have an early Christmas treat, they can, watch your play and learn more about the journey of Exana. It sounds like a really interesting character. Now, Chris, we talk about your thoughts and insights from a professional point of view. We talk about mental health, we talk about male depression, and we also talk about what you have been doing recently with your play and with your book. But I just want to hear the human side of Chris. So first off, I want to ask you, who inspires you? What keeps you going daily?
Well, Dennis, that is a great question. It seems like when people ask me that, it seems like the people who inspire me, those people change. It seems like every time someone asks me, about that. But I think one thing for me, Dennis, is, whatever, and this might even sound a little bit corny, but whatever dreams or aspirations you have in life, you just have to keep pushing forward. And I know it's something we've all heard before a million times, but you just have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product. You have to believe what you're selling. If you don't believe it, no one else will. So I think, life is just too short to be doing something you don't want to do. So if you just have this passion of, what do you want to write a book, uh, direct a movie, open up a business or whatever, uh, that option is there for you. And of course, there's hard work involved. But my thing is, don't get caught up in all of life's mishigas, and that's all for my Yiddish speaking friends. Don't get caught up in all the craziness of life that you forget who you are. Because life moves so fast, you can instantly forget who you are, what your purpose is, because you have so many directions people are pulling you all the time. Your job's pulling you, your health is pulling you, your mental health is pulling you, your relationships are pulling you, your life's obligations, all these things are just pulling you. And amongst all that, you'll forget who you are. So my advice is just stay focused on what you want to do in life and make sure you do it, because life is just it just moves too quickly. But I think the people that inspire me, Dennis, especially from a creative point of view, and a lot of people may not heard of this guy. His name's Eric Bischoff, and he's an entrepreneur. And he used to be in the professional wrestling business, and he used to create content and things like that. But he's more so doing production on other projects, and he has a podcast now that he does. And I listen to him all the time because he has so much creative insight on how to create characters, create a good story. And I think he's a really smart guy, and I really hope to meet him one day. But I've always listened to him. I think he has, because we all know wrestling, it's not real, it's fake. So he always talks about creating these wrestling characters, creating storylines for them, and finding out what is effective, what isn't effective, what the audience is, leaning towards, what turns the audiences off. And he's really in tune to how that whole process comes together. So as far as being creative and writing stuff, Eric Bischoff is one of the people that I really admire as far as storytelling and creating content.
Thank you for sharing to us your source of inspiration, Chris. Now, could you just give us some practical tips for those who want to follow your footsteps? In particular, like making a transition from being an author to, having your story turn into play. That's quite an achievement. So, do you have any practical tips? How do we start, having our story turn into play? What's the first step?
Well, you know what? I get a lot of people come up to me, and they ask me, "Well, how do you get started in this?" I want to write a book. I want to write a play. What are some paths that I can go to do this? And there's a myriad of different things that we can do to get started. And I will tell you, Dennis, getting started. I mean, just in anything in life, can be it can be difficult sometimes because you don't know where to start and you don't know who to ask, to get started. And one of the best tips, Dennis, that I can tell people is to have a mentor. Have a mentor that has or is currently going through the process. So find somebody who is already an author. Find someone who has already written plays. Find somebody who's already opened up a business. Pick their brains, ask them questions, shadow them. As they're doing their work. I think a mentor is very important because you have that support there, as well as some encouragement. And if you kind of just fall into the situation where you're just kind of confused, you kind of find yourself in a quandary, you can refer to your mentor and say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. Can you help me out? Or what are my next steps, into, doing this particular venture? So having a mentor there and having a mentor who's actually a good mentor, not just anybody, but find someone who has a good track record, who is successful, and they've already proven themselves. So finding a good mentor, not just anybody, I think is a paramount thing that you need to consider. But just starting off as an author, there's different ways you can go. You can do the self-publishing route. You can do that, or you can go the traditional route of actually going to a publishing company and getting your material published, that way. So there's a lot of ways you can get started in that. But I would say the best thing to do for anybody is find a mentor, find somebody who's already doing it. And like I said, just pick their brain about it and try to extract ideas from them, extract inspiration from them. I think that's the most important thing that I can tell somebody, and stick with that person. And like I said earlier, just keep pushing forward with what you want to do. And I sincerely think you will get there.
Absolutely. And Chris, you have been doing a number of things. You're an author, you're a psychotherapist, and you're a playwright. But what's your professional dream?
Well, you know what, Dennis? I'm really happy you asked me that. And someone asked me this the other day, actually. And I told this was actually a good conversation I had with somebody. It was a very uplifting conversation because it got really deep and profound. But for the rest of my life, Dennis, I will be helping people. I will be helping and serving the public for the rest of my life. Now, in what capacity? I don't know. That seems to be ever changing. So will I be a psychiatrist down the road? Will I continue to counsel people? That could change from year to year. But in some capacity, I'll be helping people for the rest of my life. I do know, Dennis, that I started a scholarship foundation in memory of my sister, who was tragically killed a few years ago, and she wanted to be a nurse. So I did start this scholarship foundation where people that are aspiring to become a nurse can apply for the scholarship and kind of help with the financial burdens that go along with nursing school. So for me, that's carrying on my sister's dream of becoming a nurse. So it's like her spirit is living on through other people. So that kind of helps me a little bit just to deal with my grieving as well. But that's one of the things, Dennis, that I'll be doing, just helping people, and that's something that'll be ongoing, for the foreseeable future. But just working in just my own community, providing housing for people, and just making sure that people get the right mental health that they need, because the system is so saturated with, I can't find the right word, but it's just so saturated with stuff that sometimes the people that actually need the help don't get it. Or there's just a dearth of resources. There's not enough to go around for people. So I think we really need to create a hub of mental health for people, that everyone gets served and get served correctly and thoroughly, and they don't just get lost in the system. I think that's what I wanted to say. They get lost in the system because it's so saturated. So I think we just really need to fine tune a lot of the mental health services and make sure we're reaching out to people that really need it. But I'll be serving people for the rest of my life, Dennis. I know that for sure. And I think ultimately what's going to happen with me is I think I will actually end up writing full time, being a full time author. So that's something I want for myself. And whether that transitions into, Hollywood movies or, writing plays, that'll be great too. but I really see myself being a full-time author, and that's all that I all that I do. But I'll also be helping people as well. Like I said, with the Scholarship Foundation, and there's other ventures that I'll be doing to help people as well.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing to us your important work, especially the Scholarship Foundation. And like what you've said, it's really important that we help people, and navigate the system that is supposed to serve them in relation to mental health issues. And finally, Chris, the floor is all yours. Tell us what else is in the pipeline, if there's anything else aside from your book or aside from your play. And if people wanted to reach out to you, what platforms can they get in touch with you at?
People want to get in contact with me, they can check out my website, www.chrislaird.net. You can go on that website. You can find out all about me, my bios, my books. I have tons of interviews on there, from radio, from television to print. You can check out all those, and that's at chrislaird.net. You can also check out my social media pages, Chris Laird Sci-Fi 2 on Instagram, and on Facebook, Chris Laird Sci-Fi. And don't forget about the play too. You can also go to analienchristmas.com, and that's where you can learn about the play, learn about the actors, the characters, the synopsis, and where you can buy tickets as well. So don't forget, that play will be December 11th at 7 p.m. And that play will be online for everyone in the world can watch it. And the reason we did the online format, because of the pandemic. So next year we're going to do like an actual live play that everybody can see in person. But we decided to do the online version this year, so people all over the world can see it. And just my closing remarks, Dennis. Like I was alluding to earlier, um, men's mental health is definitely made great strides in the past few years, and mental health is being more acknowledged now, and it's not some thing to hide and to be ashamed of. But mental health is a serious thing. Depression is a serious thing. Panic attacks. So I'm glad these things are coming to light. And the main thing is just be open with somebody. If you're open with yourself, that will encourage others to be open with what they're going through. And I really think that's the first step, is just being open and having the courage to say something. Because I think once you say something, now it's out there, now it can be addressed. And like I said, I think it's the first step in just getting the help that you need.
Absolutely. And it's also important to, have a bit of self-care, whether it's, through writing or even watching a play. It's a form of self-care. It's good for your mental health. So treat yourself, have a self-care day in the form of watching a play. But I just want to quickly ask this, Chris, because you mentioned earlier the importance of mentoring, and you gave your details on how to get in touch with you. Would you be open to mentoring someone?
You know what, Dennis? I'll be more than happy to do that. I actually done some mentoring a few times, but not on a lengthy process. It may have been like one or two conversations I had with somebody, and that's basically just them asking me, "How do I get started? Writing a book. I have this idea. How do I get it out there?" And once you ask me that, like I'll just talk for hours. Like you won't you won't get me to stop talking. So because I get so excited about it. But I'm definitely opening to mentoring somebody. I'm definitely open to trying to put the person on that right path, get them started, and talking with that person, try to find out what their goals are. What are you trying to accomplish? And I think with that collaboration, we can both come up with a good starting point or a good foundation on where to get started. Because I think the most important thing uh, is just asking for assistance. Finding that mentor or finding that person that can get you on that right step. And I think once you get on that right step and you know where to go, because people don't know, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I do this? Who do I talk to? Who do I give this to? And how much is this? I've never experienced nothing like this before. And if you try to go on online and try to guess, you might find yourself hitting a brick wall and getting yourself into, I don't want to say trouble, but making it a little bit harder for yourself. So finding that person, that mentor to talk to is great. So I am open to anything, any questions people have for me. And all I can tell people is what I've experienced and what I've done and what's worked for me. So that's all I can provide for people, and hopefully that'll get people start off on the right track. And I think once you go listen to a mentor and follow their advice, you'll find yourself and you'll kind of create your own being, your own presence, just off someone's advice, and find out who you are. You won't be exactly like that person or do exactly what they do. Like if Michael Jordan taught someone how to play basketball, they're not going to be like the next Michael Jordan, but they will, take the skills and the foundations and the tips from Michael Jordan to be a successful basketball player, hopefully. So, but yeah, I'm definitely open to mentoring somebody.
Okay. Well, glad to hear that. So you're open for mentoring and you're open for collaboration. So anyone just feel free to get in touch with psychotherapist Chris Laird. Well, Chris, thank you so much for sharing your insight, your experience, and your wisdom, and also about your upcoming play and your book. It's a pleasure having you here on the DRH show. But unfortunately, Chris, time is against us. But I look forward to hearing more about your work, and good luck with your play.
Thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you for having me on this morning. It was a tremendous experience, a lot of fun.
Thank you.